Hey big boys and girls, welcome to this first issue of a 15-part speedrun tutorial for Claw. My name is Pappy and I will be your guide throughout these videos. This particular video will be about basic movement, while the next ones will be about each of the 14 stages. So I do recommend that you watch this one before any of the other tutorials, as I will be referring to these mechanics often. Alright, before we start anything, make sure to check your game's frame rate by typing in MPFPS, see the number in the bottom left corner? You want the frame rate to be at a regular 60 FPS. Any higher or lower will affect the game's movement significantly, such as lower jump height, slower platforms, running too slow or too fast, etc. If you have any issues running the game properly, I've included links to both the Claw speedrunning Discord and the TCR Discord in the description below, where a lot of nice people can help you out. We're going to start off with the simplest mechanic, running. Basically, when you move on the ground in a single direction for 90 frames, or in 1.5 seconds, Claw starts running faster and also jumps higher, although not as high as having a catnip. This is called running speed, RS for short. You can think of RS as an internal counter going up from 0 to 90 when you run left or right. The counter stops if you become airborne, and not moving forward in the air won't reset it as long as you are moving forward the next time you touch the ground. Climbing ladders is treated as being airborne and keeps RS, but getting hit or facing the opposite direction will immediately reset the counter to 0, even if you are in the air or holding a rope. Note that a catnip overrides the effects of RS, but the counter remains active anyway, so if you get hit shortly before a catnip ends, you won't have RS after, and alternatively, you will have it if you respected the counter's conditions during the catnip. Not only is RS good for general movement, some strats absolutely need RS for them to work, so it's a very important mechanic. Next, we're going to talk about ladders, or more specifically, climbing them, which we call ladder climbs. One of my most asked questions is how to do these because they're done so fast that even the input display can't be clear enough to a viewer. First of all, I recommend controller users to use a D-pad because using a joystick turns this trick into a living hell. The main thing to know about ladders is that you cannot jump off of them while up is held, as it instantly re-grabs it. The way you have to climb is to press up to grab, completely let go of up before jumping, then press up again to grab just before you reach the height of your jump. Note that the timing for this is different when you have RS or catnip, so you have to get used to the 3 kinds of jump heights to ladder climb optimally. Additionally, you have to watch out for the top of the ladders. This zone can be climbed through normally but cannot be grabbed out of the air, so you may have to hold up if you reach this part. Optimal ladder climbs save many seconds and are important in almost every stage to achieve good times. Focusing on this mechanic and getting good at it will help you a lot. Let's move on to attacks. These include sword, pistol, magic, and punches. Grounded attacks prevent you from moving and have some delay after they go off, but the delay can be intentionally cancelled by crouching or moving during the attack. They're only useful if you are too close to an edge or if you need to reach a lower target. It's also useful to do crouching magic as it only lasts 2 frames and guarantees not to miss any enemies, except for chameleons. Aerial attacks are far better because they all come out faster by 2 frames, have no delay, and auto-cancel when you touch the ground. In the span of a full jump, you have time to attack twice, which is used in some specific cases. When you have a special sword, It's possible to miss a projectile by shooting too high because after the projectile is gone, the outstretched sword becomes a normal hit for the rest of the attack's duration. Usually this is to make sure to not miss, but it is used to intentionally miss on the second phase of the final boss since he cannot be hit by a special sword. It's important to master aerial attacks because they're often necessary to maintain our S. This next subject is the thing that people ask me about the most: cutscene skips. I personally discovered this trick when I started speedrunning the game in 2016, which is very recent when you consider that the game came out in 1997. Basically, when you warp in a boss fight, you fall into a cutscene trigger, and you can jump out of this trigger on the first frame before it activates. Not only does this trick skip text and dialogue, it also lets you keep your power-ups for the actual fight. The first part of skipping a cutscene is the warp itself. You have to enter sideways or down. If you rise into the warp, the game detects you as being airborne on the other side, and you'll be unable to jump out of the trigger. Once you've warped correctly, you will have to buffer a jump input, which means holding forward and jump during the animated transition. This automatically makes Claude jump on the first frame. If you have a black screen for transitions, it will still buffer your jump. And voila! You've successfully skipped the cutscene. But the trick isn't over yet. Although you jumped out of the way, the trigger zone still remains, and touching it will activate the cutscene even if the boss is already dead. So you want to stay away from that zone during and after the boss fight. Note that there are two bosses that can't be skipped with this trick, but I'll explain these in the later videos. In this part, we're not going to talk about our own movement, but rather about the stage's movement. The stages move exactly the same way every time they start, and remain loyal to the stage timer. This timer mechanic is what we call timer strats. Normally, to see the timer, you need to type MP stopwatch during the stage and it appears in the bottom left. But Egva, one of the claw runners, made a special hook that binds the timer to a single key, and I've included a link to it in the description. Once your timer is set up, you'll be able to start using this mechanic. Every rope and platform that moves, vanishes, and retracts on its own does so in specific cycles. By memorizing these, you can know in advance where a platform is going to be without seeing it. Sometimes there is a graphical glitch where a platform appears on screen when it comes into view, but it isn't really there. When this happens, you can always rely on the timer to know if you are being trolled. A stage and its timer will both freeze for exactly 2.7 seconds during a death animation, and they also freeze during warp transitions for 3 seconds. So you have to take that into consideration when you are using real time to speedrun. Alright, that'll be it for the basic movement video. I hope everyone's gonna have fun practicing these tricks. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.